Jane, don't forget to unmute yourself, please.
I'm unmuted now. I am unmuted. Okay. I want to welcome you all to our first brown bag lunch for the summer session. And also want to welcome Michael Fisher, who serves as Associate Vice President of Facilities Management and is responsible for maintenance operations, sustainability planning, and construction. And he's got lots to share with us today. Although he grew up in
San Diego.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, although he grew up in San Diego, he's been here for 20 years working. He first got his master's in business at HSU. And after getting a master's in business and psychology. So he's been here for 20 years and he's going to tell us all about the really neat things going on in the planning for our Cal Poly Humboldt.
Thank you, Jane. I appreciate that. And we did that intro on the fly, so I appreciate that, Jane. We did good.
Yeah, well, I should have written San Diego down. Sorry, good. It's like,
So no, thanks for the audience today and the platform to speak about Cal Poly Humboldt and our ambitious endeavor to introduce additional buildings and reinvest in our current buildings on campus and bring us into the future. As some of you may know, Cal Poly Humboldt was given a historic fund in 2 budget cycles ago with the governor's budget, which included a large capital program. And so I'll talk a little bit about that today. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit about our campus physical plan. Some of you may be akin to campus's master plan. That's what it's normally called. A campus master plan or physical plan is one that collates the ideas of the day into a guiding document that is then used to, build out the future, your capital program. I like to call that plan the last plan out the gate. I'll share my screen here so we can get started. Sorry, excuse me. Oh, let me get to this and share screen. There we go. So the campus physical plan is really the last plan to be developed. It really relies on a firm understanding of what the campus wants to be, both in a strategic plan, an academic roadmap, enrollment master planning, and the like. And this, the purpose of this plan is to give a physical place of where all those things happen. And that's the endeavor that we're doing. Now, we're kind of planning or building the plane while flying it, as many people have used that terminology, with this incredible, physical outlay plan that we have, these capital projects, making sure that they speak to one another cohesively is really the big task to do, and making sure that the voices of the people that are going to be using these is heard and captured. So I'll take a little pause after this physical plan update, and then we could take some questions there. And then I'll ask that you hold your questions till the end of the next section, which will be the capital programs. And then we'll tackle them as they come in via chat or hand raise. And I'll make sure to facilitate that. So the campus physical plan, what is it all about? And as I mentioned, we're trying to capture all the different planning elements that have happened beforehand, academic planning, what's behind student life, and then we're looking at the physical environment. What does transportation look like? How does community integration happen on our campus? What about land use, infill on our current campus versus what's happening outside of campus? The campus is not just the borders of 14th Street, LK Wood, and kind of Granite Avenue to the north. It's much broader than that. Trinidad, Eureka, and then some new holdings that we have here in Arcata. And so how does all that come together to position us the best to align with our Cal Poly prospectus and other things? The process of this plan is a long one. Typically, they are produced in around 12 to 18 months, but we're we're doing this a little bit longer. This is going to be about 2 years or 24 months in total, and we're just about halfway through that effort now. And part of that is also a CEQA element, and that's the California Environmental Quality Act. And in there, we'll create a plan, a product definition, and then look at it under the guidance of the CEQA process, which is a mandated process, and one that has built into it community engagement points on the final plan. We also have community engagement points in the main plan in its development, but it'll happen again in the CEQA process. So where are we in that whole thing? You can see here is a big broad overview of our timeline. Right now we're in this explore phase, ideate and formulate. We like to break this down into 6 general areas collated into 3 umbrellas. The first of which was understand, the second explore, and the third was realize. In the understand phase, this was all about understanding the campus as we know it today and who it wants to become in the future. And this included the review of all of our plans and having steering groups and task forces and community engagement forums. And we collected a lot of great information from that. But that was the soup. And now we have to create some more tangible things that we can really start to wrap our head around. And that's where idea and formulate come into process. This is where we begin to really put those ideas together and they start to take shape. And then lastly, in realize, we take those ideas and give them form and function. And then we formalize that in the final report. And you can see that we aim to finalize the final report in summer of next year. So a few things that we've done. We did the physical plan launch, and this is just some visuals to show you how we did this. Besides the forums that were structured and people were invited to, we did a lot of open tabling. This is, of course, on our Gutzwerk Student Activity Center Plaza. And this was passive in nature. We invited students to participate in mapping and identification of personas and what it means to be a student on campus. Faculty, staff also participated in this open tabling. The bottom left corner is the imagery that we use to collect a lot of this data and communicate it back to our stakeholders. This slide is just really to communicate effort. We did a number of workshops, an engagement series where we had planning exercises in small group, and which led to the firm foundation for ideation and formulation of plans. I'm going to pause there, and then we could talk a little bit about questions that you might have on campus physical planning, and we'll get into capital projects. Again, these capital projects are designed to align with the development of our overall campus plan. And as a reminder, our last campus plan that we had in play was from 2004, and you can imagine it's changed quite a bit from 2004 to today. Even without our Cal Poly prospectus, it's changed. So let me just pause real quickly before I get into the capital projects. See some people put on their videos. If you'd like to raise your hand or put it in the chat, I'm happy to call on you. And we can also take these questions to the end as well. Okay, let's keep rolling.
I have one quick question. How many people would you say were actively engaged, and what kinds of feedback did you get?
Yeah, how many people? I think I'd have to talk a bit about it in broad terms. Turnout in our structured engagement in workshops was medium. It wasn't an overwhelming presence, but the open forums, we had very good turnout, standing room only, and those were very informative. And certainly those elicited a lot of angst from the prior planning process. In 2004, that physical plan implicated a lot of land that the university did not own. And as you might imagine, it upset the apple cart when it came to people's properties and where they lived. And so there's a lot of angst from that. There was also, you know, a lot of good input about how are we going to grow responsibly, and that's such a critical component of the overall process. And injecting a large population in this small community has its sensitivities, and that's not lost on us. And this plan tries to capture that to some respect. So about number of people, I'd say it was healthy. It's not as large as I'd like it to be, but it certainly was not small. It was medium. Sorry, that's not a real number, medium. Your other question was, I'm sorry, Jane.
Well, my question is, how did you try to engage people from the community? Were most of the people that came from the university, or did you actually get much engagement from the community?
Yeah, in our first forum, we had a large community contingent. And then when we started to do the workshops, it was mostly faculty, students, and staff. And then we started to identify community leadership groups, forums just like this one that we injected ourselves into and got on their agendas. And that elicited a lot of good feedback, productive feedback in a small setting. So that's how we went about more community involvement.
Have you actually written up the results of that community involvement? You know, lessons learned, issues, decisions made as a result of that input?
That's the work that we're doing right now, Jane. That's a great question. Right in that timeline in the green period, that's exactly what we're doing right now. Right in the middle of it.
Will you continue to solicit input as you go? Because as you make decisions and people figure out what those decisions are, will you continue to solicit responses?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So the initial data gathering in any one population or any one forum needs to have a secondary involvement point. That's the feedback loop. Here's what we heard. What do you think about that? Do we hear it right, or has it changed? And so that second part of showing, you know, people that were involved, here's what we heard, has not happened yet. And that happens right around this spot right here, this December 23 area, right when we go from explore to realize.
I mean, is that in time to make substantive changes if if the public, the problem is letting the public know exactly where you're at, and then is when you tend to get more of a response, because before it's fluid and you have no idea. So when you finally get something on paper and say, here's what it is, are you going to lay it out like a plan like that and let people respond?
We would, yeah. It'd be similar to how you're illustrating it. Also, there's the CEQA process has a comment feedback loop built into it. If you've ever commented or reviewed a CEQA plan, you know, every comment that's submitted has to be responded to. And in that loop, there's a very clear way and direct way of addressing public comment, those from the community and beyond. But that's secondary to the plan, right? And you're specifically talking about plan development and how do we actually get those ideas incorporated before it gets to that point. And you know, it's not perfect, but it's happening with the folks that choose to engage through the process, which is also a challenge. It's a long process. So we lose people, we gain new people, and perspectives change in that long process.
Mark Larson has a question.
Mike, I'm wondering what's the timing of the CEQA analysis report?
Let me go back to that schedule. So in that last section here, in late spring of 24 into summer, so about a year from now, I expect to be engaged in that CEQA process. Thanks for that question.
When would the plan actually be published?
Well, the published plan will be part of the CEQA initiation. So before that process, well, to start that process, that draft plan will be put out there. And then the final plan is anticipated to conclude around July.
So it would be available for review, say in April or May.
That's correct, as a draft CEQA final plan, but we intend to have those community engagement points that you were mentioning
Yeah.
this next semester towards the end of the calendar year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there will be something written and available to review.
That's right.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You got it. Other questions on physical plan update?
I got a question in the chat. They're asking, by just viewing the plan, isn't it far more appropriate for a city such as San Diego than the fragility of our community? Reading it as I was given.
Such as, I'm not sure if I understand the question. Just viewing what CPH's plan, isn't it far more appropriate for a city such as San Diego? Oh, I see. The appropriateness of the plan towards the city that we are in. The plan isn't completed or published. I wonder if this question is more attached to the physical plans that we're looking at, the capital projects. And I think this is about, look and feel, community fabric as it relates to the university. And those are
Physical
fair.
plan and the sustainability in the community.
Sustainability on all measures, correct? Not just the building performance. We're talking about
All measures exactly, including fire.
Sure. Yeah, those are fair questions and good ones. And the plan itself certainly does look to address those. The capital projects that are happening simultaneously with this planning effort are considerate of those factors as well. This issue with fire and fire safety, we've been pretty engaged with the Arcata Fire District, and we are partners on the area service study. We are partners in plan review on each one of these projects. The Craftsman project in particular was reviewed multiple times by the department, and we continue to be good collaborators with them on that one. Certainly, there are a lot more things to be considered. That's transportation and roadway. That's connectivity between Arcata and the campus. It's food, it's basic needs, it's housing. All of those things go to build this community and make sure it can sustainably grow at a pace that's appropriate. So I appreciate the comment. I think I understand its intent, and it's good information.
How much are you looking at the access in and out of the projects, taking into account the infrastructure that's available? In other words, the roads, are they sufficient to accommodate all the traffic that's likely to occur? Are you setting up transport from the various areas, such as what was the village, the new Craftsman Mall project, to get to the university, so that you don't have all these cars trying to get there? And have you put a garage on the plan for parking for people who aren't in the city?
Yeah, great question. Connectivity and mobility between our campus, Arcata, McKinleyville, and Eureka and beyond are critical to the future of Cal Poly Humboldt. We have to ensure that people have equitable access to what they came here for. And to be quite honest with you, equity and access does not equal a single occupant car. It does not equal parking and driving. The ultimate goal for Cal Poly Humboldt in response to transportation and mobility is to create a walkable Arcata and campus, to create the last mile bridge between public transportation and wherever their final destination is. Only then, when we're maximizing those elements, should we be considering parking and expansion of it. Now, it'll never go away. Parking will always be a thing. It's part of, almost 100 years of municipal planning that we inherit. And so, yes, parking needs to be considered towards the future, but parking on campus versus off is part of that transportation network. And those are all things to be considered. Acutely for the Craftsman Student Housing Project, we do have a pedestrian path that we're working with the city on. That's the Rails to Trails Annie Mary project that'll connect it back to Sunset. We have plans in play with Caltrans and the city of Arcata on improving the Sunset Bridge, which is not pedestrian friendly at the moment. And then a shuttle service, which will connect that, that development, the healthcare hub on Samoa that we are planning, our Foster property to the west, and the university, which should have 15-minute headways is our goal. So 15 minutes from any one location. And then looking to expand, of course, to McKinleyville and Eureka, and how we connect those cities to ours.
Because it's a big missing part of getting around.
Agreed, absolutely.
Did you ever look into any land that you could, like Happy Valley? Did you ever look into that piece of land that they want to be commercial but would be easily accessed to Cal Poly, right directly through the forest? Did you ever talk to the city about that?
No, I don't have any knowledge of that.
It's for sale. They had to put it up for sale for because it was vacant land owned by the city, according to state law.
Hmm.
So
I
I mentioned that before. Tom, you have a question? You unmute?
So yeah, I've been both a resident of. Can you hear me, by the way?
yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay, I've been a resident of McKinleyville for 10 years, and I also, when I retired, came from Sunnyvale to Humboldt. I signed up as a full-time student, and so transportation was always an issue with me to get to the school on time, and especially as the classes got segregated, 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. I brought up the issue with transportation with Humboldt and with a couple of studies that were done as I participated in some of the forums within McKinleyville. And typically, Humboldt has been absent in the population that responded to those transportation surveys. How do I know that you've re-engaged adequately, especially as McKinleyville is going to grow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good questions. You know, I think proof is in the pudding, and that's, you know, I'm a big believer that you can talk all day, but you got to live up to your commitments. And so, you know, I personally and a lot of our colleagues have been part of, you know, HCOG has a large planning initiative that they're underdoing a study of service area. HTA has been at the table every time that we've talked about transportation, and they've talked about transportation. We show up with them. Arcata and Amherst, you know, that transportation system, we consistently talk about how we prop up and improve, and have dedicated significant funding to Amherst to make sure that they can continue to operate. Connecting McKinleyville, Eureka, and Arcata and others is largely going to be led by HTA as we currently understand it. And us being party to that alongside all the other cities and Caltrans is how that's going to work. One of our capital projects is the Earth Center in Eureka, and that is a mobility first floor, you know, HTA project with housing above it. That creates an anchor point for us in Eureka, connecting that community to ours. That's one example of how we're putting it up there, right? How we're not just talk.
Oh, okay. I'll listen. I'll wait for the proof in the pudding, I suppose. We'll see. I'll continue to raise this issue as I hear more people talking about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And, you know, the skepticism is earned, right? I mean, I've been here for 20 years. I've been part of this professionally for 15, and I've seen the ebbs and flows of administration commitments along the way. So I understand where it's coming from. I really do. Let's roll into capital projects. There's quite a bit more slides inside of here, and I'm sure there'll be some questions. So if you can hold your questions till the end, I'm going to try to cruise through this in about 20 minutes, bringing us to about 50 past the hour, maybe a little less. All right, so we have two categories of buildings that we're doing. One is the first category is academics. The second is housing. This is one of our primary academic buildings that we are doing. With the Cal Poly Prospectus, we are adding 9 new disciplines just this next year for fall, and then there are more to follow. These ones coming up in fall of 2023 will largely be engineering technology focused. We're creating a school of engineering, building upon the success of our current engineering programs. And with that, we are designing and building an infill project, aptly named the Engineering Technology Building. And this is an early rendering of what the program might look like inside of that building. What you're looking at here is the campus events field. For those that haven't been on campus in a while, this is B Street. You can see my cursor running north-south. This is 17th going east-west. This is the forestry building and the oh my gosh, I just went blank. The environmental resource building. Gosh darn it. This is Science D, or Alistair McCrone Hall, and our Dennis K. Walker greenhouse right over here. The SBS, or Student Business Services building, is right over here off screen, and HGH, or Harry Griffith Hall, right down here. Natural Resources building, sorry about that, that's what that one is. And so what this building aims to do is to give a presence to campus on your first approach, be one of your first impressions of campus. When you start a tour, you're a transfer student, you start at the SBS building. And so it should be impactful in that way, beyond just its additional square footage to accommodate these new programs. We're anticipating a spring of 26 delivery with this project, and you could see the project budget there and the square footage gained. This is a perspective looking down Harp Street, or to the east. Community Forest would be in the background there. To your right would be Harry Griffith Hall. Again, you're on B Street, and then SBS, or Student Business Services, on your left. Right now, as you come down this street, I wish I had a side-by-side. Right now, you see a block CMU with English ivy and then chain link fence above it. Not the greatest first impression or use of space. And so this aims to improve that visual cue for campus, amongst other things, of course. Looking interior, this building aims to be a LEED Gold building. It'll be built in mass timber, and it'll be all electric. And so you can see here, this is an inside rendering of what the building could look like. All of the vertical and horizontal structure, well, most of the vertical and horizontal structure will be in mass timber or wood. We do have some concrete. This helps alleviate some of the embedded carbon footprint we have with building and modern technology. This has been expressed to us in user groups and public forums as feels like walking through the forest, the verticality of wood. And so it's pretty neat. I feel like it's developing in a positive direction. Our next building here is the Energy Research and Sustainability Center. This building will house energy sciences, as well as a lab that will look at and bench test equipment for our campus microgrid. Related to this project, but under different funding, we're delivering a 2.5 megawatt solar microgrid on campus, utilizing the car canopy and building rooftops as allowable on campus. That'll maximize our buildable square footage for solar. That'll be accompanied with a battery backup, all of which is controlled by controls to do load demand and provide resiliency for the campus. So that'll be studied here. And then second, or partner to that, is sustainability in total. Right now, sustainability is integrated into the fabric of all that we do on campus through programs and its students, but it doesn't have a home. And this will allow it to have a home where we'll be able to showcase that work, recruit more funding and work for the campus, and give a space for our student groups to meet, gather, and produce. What we're looking at here is 14th Street going east-west to the south. This is B Street going north to the left here. The facilities management building where I'm located is right down here to the left. And the site is the Children's Center. The Children's Center is currently being relocated to the Old Trinity Hospital. That project is just now finishing up. They're going to be moving in a week and a half, actually, into that new building. And so this spot becomes available for redeployment, which is this building here. This is planned for a delivery in 25, excuse me, in spring of 26. And you can see some of the project details there on the bottom. This is looking at the building from the south or from 14th Street. You can see the Behavioral Social Sciences building up in the background. The important part about this rendering is that, you know, we understand the 14th Street to be, you know, really a border with the Bayview community, and we really want to make sure that the borders are soft in transition. And so, you know, a big, massive building here is not what we want to do. So a stepped and tiered into the hillside we felt was quite respectful at 2-story. This is looking east from B Street. This is across from the facilities management building. Just giving you a sense of sight and scale of what we're looking at. So also with our academic capital outlay, we must reinvest. You know, we have a lot of square footage on campus that our programs currently reside in. And quite simply, just to update the labs to contemporary equipment, accessibility functions through the spaces and building entries, right down to the bathrooms, the quality of restroom, and the finishes inside. These are all vital components of student retention, recruitment, and faculty research. And so we do have a sizable pot of money that goes to reinvest inside of these labs. We will prioritize that reinvestment through our work as a steering committee into programs and functions that support growth on our campus, or those areas of degree impaction. The sciences will largely see that investment through that function. Also part of their capital campaign or capital project is marine facilities. We have an amount of funds that are dedicated to the reinvestment in the Coral Sea, the research vessel Coral Sea, or possible expansion of the fleet. We're trying to align what we do with our marine operations, with our academics, of course, number one, but two is bringing practical experience to our students, and that could be in seaweed farming, which we've been doing, oyster farming, or how we develop with offshore wind. We're also looking to partner with Eureka to create an offshore wind lab. We're also looking to the new winners of the lease blocks, the federal lease blocks out there for wind energy, to see how we fit in the fabric of that industry. And we have a small amount of money to put towards that and look for partner funding to create something there. The second category, as I mentioned, was housing, and we have quite a large ambition to improve or expand housing on our campus and on our offsite facilities. The first of which many of you I'm sure would know is the student housing project at the Craftsman's site. What we're looking at here, this is the Mad River fence board mill. This is St. Louis Bridge right here. This is Stromberg. I used to live right down there in college. And this is EYE or I Street going off to the south here. And this is the backside of Arcata Elementary School. So hopefully that gives you some bearings on where we are in sight. The university is about 3/4 of a mile as the crow flies from here. And some important points that were brought up earlier is connectivity to campus. The Rails to Trails project, you can kind of make out the rail right there to the left of the building. That is going to be a primary pedestrian connection point back to Sunset, and we're working to make sure that that's delivered in time with this project. And then, of course, we'll have a shuttle service that utilizes LK Wood and the St. Louis Bridge going back to campus. So what you're looking at here are two buildings centered over a single muse down the center. That's where all the student programs will be presented. We also have a small cafe with food to order to support this site, and convenience store. These will all be apartment style, so they'll have kitchens and able to be fully functional in that way. We have a large covered bicycle parking as that's part of this. We do want to encourage to the max extent possible non-motorized transportation between the campus and here, and so we're securing those and sheltering them. We are aiming to produce, well, we will produce 964 beds, and will be completed in a phased delivery with the left side of the building, or the east building, for fall of 25, and then spring of 26 will be the remaining building. This is the same project looking from the north to the south, or down the muse between the two buildings, giving you a nice perspective of what's there. And then this is looking north, or from the south through the muse. To the right is that small convenience store / food made to order. And you could start to see a little bit of the study rooms, conference rooms, workout centers, mail rooms, things like that. Also the scale, this gives a little sense of human scale inside the park-like setting. We've focused on density and made sure that we have outdoor living spaces, and the edges are softer towards the community and other things. Going to our next housing project. This is a very interesting project for us, one that aims to co-locate some critical functions for the student life of our students. In blue is what we're proposing as freshman style residences. In tan, and which the blue is built on top of, is the Student Health Center. Currently, the Student Health Center is located by the library to the north, or up here where my cursor is. This will relocate the Student Health Center into this purpose-built facility and expand it by almost double, which is critical for healthcare for our students, and one that will support them in serving the population we intend to have. In the purple is dining. This will become our main dining center on campus, and be an attractive open solution for not just students but faculty and staff alike. The partnership between basic need programs, which are largely facilitated by the Student Health Center, and then food procurement and processing and waste being part of the synergy of this residence hall. So you can imagine a robust food pantry, skills in kitchen and food preparedness, and health sciences happening all concurrently within this build, supporting the student experience, and basically getting them educated on how to successfully live independently and in a healthy environment. This is located on where the campus apartments are, or commonly known as the Maikai apartments on this hillside. This is the north part of our G11 parking lot. This is also where ceramics and sculpture live. And ceramics and sculpture is actually tied into this project now to be relocated and purpose-built facility in Jenkins Hall, which is where industrial technology was many years ago. And we've worked with that department. They're very enthusiastic about this potential, and should really a real nice improvement from where they currently are to that new facility in Jenkins Hall. This is planned to be delivered in 2027, with Jenkins Hall, of course, being delivered much earlier. And you can see what our goal marks here are: 500 bed, and the square footage is behind the two different elements, dining and health. And there you go. This is Jenkins Hall. This is located at the corner of Laurel and B Streets. Theater Arts is off to the left, and Art A is off to the left of the picture here. This will be brought back to life with ceramics and sculpture being its occupants. close to last. This is our last major project that we're undertaking here. This is a partnership with the City of Eureka and the Humboldt Transit Authority, all of which have an ambition to create a center point for transportation on campus, multimodal, meaning not just buses, but also rideshare services, non-motorized transportation, and scooter and bike, and then give a home to transit operations that support that. Integrated, of course, above would be housing, and this would be affordable housing at nearly 50% of it. That's all pegged to that's all pegged to regulations on state. It is geared towards students, but we are building them in a way that basically a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartments. So if we needed flexibility in the Eureka market for faculty, staff, or students, these units can be adaptable towards that end. This has an anticipated delivery of 26 for fall. You heard me mention it earlier, but our Trinity project, this is going to house the Child Development Lab and the Children's Center. And this will be ready for occupancy here in 2 weeks. And it's a great project. If you haven't walked near this, you'll see quite a vast improvement. This is an older picture from winter, but all the play equipment's up now and it's looking pretty sharp. Last but not least is our healthcare hub. So the Samoa building is located at the southwest part of Arcata. As you leave Arcata on Samoa 255, the last building on the left-hand side is the Samoa building, or the new location for the healthcare hub. For those that have been around a while, it's the former site of Industrial Electric. That's where they did a lot of their motor windings and some other things for the mills at the time. And anyways, so the healthcare hub will be a partnership between CR and Cal Poly Humboldt. CR's entire nursing program will move essentially from their CR campus over to this location. And then Cal Poly Humboldt's nursing program will be integrated with theirs. We already have alignment within our curriculum, but this will give a purpose-built home for them as well. This is a simulation lab. So as that suggests, we'll have a simulation environment such as an ER or clinical or in-home care. And the various different programs can exercise their skills inside of those simulations. This includes EMTs and paramedics and the many different divisions of nursing in total. And so this has a planned opening of fall 25 as well, and should be a pretty impressive project when all put together. All right, that's enough of me rambling. I see a few questions in the chat, and I'm happy to start to engage. I see a hand raised, Lori.
You need to unmute, Lori.
Oh, sorry. Okay, mute.
No, you need to unmute. There.
How about now? Is okay?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I just have two questions. One, isn't the Arcata Fire Department itself best qualified to determine what its own resources can or can't protect? Because it seems to me that Cal Poly's own draft environmental impact report honestly has not respected Arcata Fire Department's own determination, what it can and can't protect in regard to the multi-story buildings that CPH will be building.
I appreciate the question. And as I mentioned earlier, we've been in close communication with them. They actually approved our plans. And so, you know, they have Arcata Fire has an issue to address with their wider service area, 100%. And I'll just speak to what I mentioned earlier, is that we're partners with them on that study. We meet with them every other week and the consultancy to help them best position for the expansion of growth, which is not only Cal Poly Humboldt, but the region in total and total population. Apparatus and firefighting on our building has been addressed with them directly. And I would venture to guess if you ask them about our project today versus when those articles first came out, they may say similar things to us.
Thank you. Just one more other quick question. Are there any requirements for Cal Poly to pay for Arcata Fire Department services? I'm just kind of curious, how do they pay? What do they pay?
Yeah, good question. We do pay into Arcata Fire's program, and it's a function of multiple things. But we are party to their financial success. Yes. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate the question. Tom, I see you unmuted.
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on the funding for the fire department. Funding for the fire department has been problematic for the last 4 or 5 years. They often close down one of the stations and move stations around because they don't have enough money to support them, or more importantly, they can't hire people because of the wages. The question I was going to ask is not so much do you pay for services, but are you actually funding capital programs for the fire department?
We are not directly funding capital programs for the fire department.
Okay.
We pay into a portion of their operating budget, of which they have full latitude to use as they see fit.
I understand.
Thank you for the question.
Mike, do you see there's a question in the chat? Or comment in the chat as well?
Yeah, the question that I'm deriving from this one here, Butch, is what are the environmental studies? Each one of our projects is subject to environmental review. The Craftsman Student Housing Project being a good example of the most recent. And there's a comprehensive review that's part of the mandated part of what's in CEQA. That includes the things, you know, I'm trying to glean from the comment about environmental responsibility. And I think that's broader than just, you know, the environment, but also, you know, population, accommodation, and responsible growth. And all those things are part of the CEQA process, including transportation and protection of civil service like fire. You know, each one of those projects are subject to that process and the specificity inside of it. If there's a follow-on question, I'm happy to take that one there, Butch, but let me know. Peter?
Yeah, it's kind of just a general question, which I know has been addressed. First off, I've got to say, I've only lived in this area for 4 years. My son came up here in 2002 to attend Humboldt. He's lived up ever since. He's a high school teacher in Arcata. All my family now lives up here. So I'm very excited with Cal Poly expanding, becoming a Cal Poly. I just think it's wonderful. My concern is with the housing. You know, I know it's being addressed, but it just doesn't seem to be significant enough.
Yeah, I appreciate the comment, Peter. And I'm happy that you and your family have found this wonderful place like we have as transplants. You know, housing as a metric of our total student population, it's our goal to produce housing options for our student to the capacity of 50%. So if we had 10,000 students, we would want 5,000 beds. That is our goal, and that puts us well ahead of other CSUs or other residential campuses. They're typically in the low 40s. or high 30s as far as percentage of the population that they serve. So when you look at it from that metric, I think our goal mark is right. And I'll say this, I'm going to take a step back and, you know, I've been here for quite a long time, 20 years, certainly longer than I've lived anywhere else. And I've been in the construction and the trades industry for quite some time. And if we're going to grow as a community beyond Cal Poly, talking about, you know, wind energy, talking about general population growth, talking about, you know, transplants from outside communities, our population has grown by city independent of Cal Poly over pandemic significantly. Those are things to address. And I say this to, you know, the city managers and elsewhere, that we all have to grow together. We all have to consider how we put together programs, housing solutions and services, to really make sure that we can sustain the population that's beyond our students, which are transient. And so that is part of the deal. And us being a partner and catalyst for this is great. We'll take that responsibility all day. But the community is going to needs to all go together. And that's what we're trying to sponsor. Thank
You
you
have
for
several new questions. Butch Thompson said HSU originally had the pledge to be socially and environmentally responsible, which
that
does
was,
seem that you've already addressed that.
yeah, that
Okay.
was the environmental studies
Okay,
question. Thank you
then
for that one. But I
Where are you
see,
going to put the overflow of students until these new buildings become available? Are you still using local motels?
yeah, thank you, Jane, for that. We are still contracted with the Comfort Inn in Giantoli. For the next year, we feel confident that based on our wait list and enrollments and everything else, that will still be sufficient. The next year, we are going to keep a very close eye on where enrollments go and where our housing wait lists go. But right now, no additional properties are needed.
Are applications conforming with what you anticipated happening to get to the number you want by 2209? 2229. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting conversation, and one that's better explained by our enrollment director and the VP of enrollment. But the trends have been interesting. Our confirms based, or our confirmed as opposed to our applications, there's a bigger difference between those numbers than we had expected. And the enrollment is a moving target from what I understand from that group, but I would have to defer the comment really to our colleagues in the enrollment side. I'm sorry for that weak answer. And I see your question here. You describe will accommodate 864. How many students are currently in both new dorms around the soccer field? And how will these? Okay, great question. So currently we have about 2,000 beds on campus. So this gets close to increasing it by almost 50%. It's a significant increase, certainly, to our current enrollment. And when you look at that as what I mentioned earlier, a 50% goal, you know, right now we're at about, oh gosh, I'm going to mess up this number, but we're somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 students. And if we get to a close to 3,000 bed count, we're very close to our goal of 50%. And so using that as a metric of success, I think we're headed in the right direction.
It seems like you're presuming that the community will absorb the other 50%. Is that viable?
Well, that's a question. I mean, I don't know the complete answer for that one, Jane, but what I try to compare it to in our planning exercises and what we've been doing with our master planning, of course, our campus physical planning, is looking at what's reasonable out there in other communities, and are they experiencing some of these housing issues? And they are, but none of them provided a 50% mark. Now, is that the golden, the silver bullet for this? I can't be sure, but I certainly know we're making strides in the right direction to help alleviate what growth could look like. Mind you, it's an interesting situation, right? Because at one point in time, back in 2015, we were at almost 8,700 students, and we're significantly less than that now. The housing environment's just changed. We've seen a lot of former rentals go private from people moving into the community, and not a lot of building happening. But there has been over the past 2 years more building happening with high density or apartment style. And so talking with our partners in communities like Furtado and Strombeck and Danco's, what are you guys planning to do? What are you guys building? And they are doing more developments. And so, yeah, we will have to, like any institution or campus in a smaller community, will have to rely on private building.
Are you planning to actually purchase additional property that might become available in the Gateway area?
That is not part of our plan, no.
Okay.
But certainly our commitment to seeing success in that realm we're tied to the community in that. So I would anticipate that Poly Humboldt would, remain silent on those issues. We want to see that be successful.
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Laura, you had a question there. Will new students be given housing priority, especially on campus, over continuing students? Are continuing students having to give up their lodging to new students coming in? Thank you for this question. This was something that had come up early spring of this year, and it was certainly in the news and the narrative. That is not the condition right now. We are able to accommodate our continuing students and our freshmen's demand right now for this next academic year. That will have to be identified and addressed in the next academic year, but we don't know those numbers yet.
And then Lisa Pedersen asked, what is the plan for the property at the end of Foster?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. The property for the end of Foster is intimately involved with the campus physical plan update, looking at land use in particular. So infill on campus versus off campus, what does that look like? And Foster is our pressure relief valve on that. We are hemmed in here on the main campus. And so as a campus, what makes sense to build here and what makes sense to facilitate off campus? And those could be academic resources in agriculture. They could be athletic play fields because we have those on campus, but do we need that land for something else? It could be housing for infill. Do we need more apartment style because that's not really conducive to a freshman style environment out there? So all these things are still part of the consideration, and also transportation. A quasi transportation hub out there. Would that work too? So those are all part of that consideration. And no, we have not landed on a direction on that quite yet. Thank you, Lisa. I hope that answers your question.
And Art B has been poorly developed for accessibility. Any updates happening?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I'll tell you this much. This campus, and I'm a CASP specialist, a certified access specialist. This campus is tough. Accessibility on this campus is not easy, even for able-bodied, right? I mean, it's tough. And so we do have a large or an overall plan for campus. How do we improve accessibility in its backbone? And we chip away at that, as the plan is constructed to promote that through universal design more so than, Chapter 11B for accessibility code. We want everybody to be able to use our facilities. But yeah, it's challenging. Stairs and Hills University is true, man. Art B in particular, we know has, elevator issue and restroom issue that we are actively looking at, yes.
And then about what are you going to do about homeless students?
Yeah, good question. We've had a program in place ever since the beginning of COVID for homeless students, offering emergency housing through that office. They continue to do that. The emergency housing is a landing place, and then they get partnered up with somebody that helps them find something in the community. And then we've done a lot of outreach for students that we know to be homeless that, well, I think that I to stop there, that program's still in place, and we'll continue to offer that emergency housing for folks, get them where they need to go. Mark, I see your question here. We have talked about that, a camper RV park, you know, giving folks the option of that. Yeah, that's certainly been in consideration. We don't know where or how, especially with the demand that we have on available surface parking being towards, well, just that surface parking for occupant vehicles. But I mean, nothing's off the table, right? These are all creative ideas. And where I was kind of alluding to with the homeless students or houseless students is some of that's a choice to be in those lower costs, you know, RV type environments. And so how do we set them up for success too is a question. Yes. It's an answer, non-answer. Sorry there, Mark.
Are you still planning to have a garage on campus, parking garage?
Currently we did originally, that was before we saw 40% escalation over the year after year in construction costs. Car garages are expensive, but I'll go back to a comment I made a while ago and around transportation. You know, moving towards an environment where the single occupant car is not your primary mode of transportation is our goal. And only after you introduce all those sustainable transportation elements and they're successful, should we even be talking about a garage. And we're not there right now. And so, no, we don't have a garage on our capital LA plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that you did at one point. Are there any other questions that anybody has?
We always aim to preserve redwood trees. There's a question here from Lisa. Thank you. We always preserve or aim to preserve redwood trees. Certainly there's going to be a few instances where we cannot. We've consistently milled those trees and reused them on campus. It's not it's not preserving the tree in its growth cycle, but certainly we don't let it, we either mill it, reuse it on campus, or they're transported to local tribes for their use.
There's another message.
Is the Red Hall replacement still in the pipeline? Red Hall. We do have, I shared with you a rendering. That's the student, the housing, health, and dining facility. It's a combined facility. It was purple, tan, and blue. That is our, Res Hall replacement. Gotcha. Yes. So the answer is yes. That rendering that I mentioned earlier will be in a similar location as Maikai.
And then Butch's question, the car garages collapse in the Northridge earthquakes. What plans for building structures in our earthquakes do you have?
You know, Butch, it's funny. So that's not funny. I'm sorry. That's a poor choice of words. But it's ironic that you use that example of Northridge, because after that event, number one, building code paid close attention to this issue. And then the CSU in particular paid close attention by developing its own seismic standards to complement that of the California Building Code. And what that means is a team of engineers every year develops site-specific ground motion coefficients that go into modeling new buildings. So basically what that means is the buildings are reactive to the ground conditions that are observed, and they're much more seismically safe, and to be honest with you, much more expensive and intensive for us in particular. And that's how we engineer and protect our buildings against seismic constraints that are known to this region in particular.
Is that happening with the Craftsman Mall building?
Oh, it's standard on every building. It's mandated. Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
And what is the impact of CPH's plan on community sewage?
Yeah, that's a great question. There will be an impact, but we've been considered as part of the improvements that the city of Arcata's already has underway. And we've been partner on associated fees behind getting that, set up for them as well. So we are considering that, or I should say, our Arcata is considering that. Great questions. Tough ones. They're good.
Any other questions? Now or never. Michael, thank you ever so much. This was very helpful. We
Thanks,
got
Mike.
lots of opportunity to ask questions and find out a little bit more about what's going on. Looks like you've been busy.
Yeah, thank you.
Like you're busy.
I appreciate the comments and yeah, this was a great session. Please look for interactions that we release with the campus physical plan and participate in those as well. We do encourage you. Thanks again. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you ever so
Thank-
much. And I want to let you know that next week we're going to have an update on Humboldt County climate action and sea level rise planning with Michael Richardson. And we'll hope to see you there. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
And please do consider, if you haven't yet, becoming a member of OLLI. We welcome you all. We try to get to 1,000 every year. That's our requirement from OLLI. We made it very closely this year. We got 920 some, I think. So we want to get over the edge this year. So please come, become members, and bring your friends. Thanks so much. Have a beautiful day.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Michael.